Andy and Remington Steel Show on your screens tonight. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. We're talking about Age of Sigmar and anything else that is cool. Talking about Warhammer Fantasy, it's easy to learn the rules. Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington Show.
Welcome, everyone. We're back. We're back in town, and it's time to jump back into the saddle. We've got a two-man horse ready. Are you ready to dive on, Mr. Remington?
You betcha I am. We're back.
And look at this high-tech setup we've got here. This is possibly the most advanced piece of technology ever seen on a live internet broadcast. If you wanted to know how I've got all this working, it would probably blow your mind because it's so weird, and there are ways you can do it properly, but we don't know how to do those. So I'm not even going to spoil the secrets and tell you how we're doing it because it's too comical. So, Mr. Remington, does it feel good to be back on the air?
I think so. Let me just look at the chat and then I'll know. Masses have waited so long. And yes, we both got beards. Brad Jimenez, Alexander, Bazooka J, Mickey J, the great to see you guys. Herbie Doobie. Welcome, welcome. Steve Evans, we're back.
We're both
Maybe we're
rocking
back.
a bit of a lockdown look at the moment, aren't we?
Yeah, this is the lockdown project. This is the man cave. This is the zone for Age of Sigmar fans.
Your hair's looking a bit tidier than it is in the video thumbnail, though.
Yeah, I've gone for the dark elf look. Yes.
You've gone for the actually doing something with your hair instead of just being the kind of lockdown caveman look.
Whereas you look a bit grizzly. I kind of like this look on you, Andy. But now I've said that, you'll probably go and shave all your hair off tomorrow.
Well, this is the lockdown look. When lockdown's over, I think I might have a shave then.
So for those who don't know what the show is, Andy, do you want to let them know?
Well, anyone who doesn't know what it is, they must have been living under a rock and then crawled out of the rock about 2 years ago. Because we were actually, for a time, the biggest, most celebrated, the most watched, the most renowned, the most well-known, and, dare I say, the greatest live Age of Sigmar discussion show of all time.
That's right, man.
We were the originals, the originators. We were right there as soon as the rumours were breaking. We were reporting on it live down there in the trenches, and by the trenches I mean in front of our computers.
I think the content, though, was just a little bit too juicy, red hot, not really that conservative for the masses. But for those slightly left of centre, those maybe not too serious about their gaming exploits, this is the show for you.
It was way ahead of its time, I think, the show as well. Because obviously every other show since then has come along and copied our format, and even Games Workshop themselves copied our greatest segment and started using it in their community updates. And of course talking about What the Hell Is That, which they blatantly ripped off with their rumour engine.
And come to mention it, Andy, you've got a What the Hell Is That set up for us today. So why not let's just see it right now?
Because in this new high-tech age, then we're actually going to have the What the Hell Is That lurking on the screen all the way through the show until somebody gets it right. So I'm going to bring it up right now.
I've been looking at it for the last 20 minutes and I don't know what it is.
There we go. It's sitting right in the corner of the screen. If anyone gets it, I'll be very impressed, and you will win our congratulations. No actual prizes though. Okay, we got anything juicy going on in the chat there, other than people just proclaiming their joy at the fact that we're back on the air? The first image we've got up that people have been looking at this whole time, apart from the What the Hell Is That, which has just popped up, we can see your wonderful ogres. You want to talk us through these ogres a bit, because you've obviously been working on these since the last show, which was probably, do we even want to guess how many months ago it was?
Probably over a year ago, I guess, right?
The last time we did a show, it was the Gloom Spike Gits.
Wow.
So whenever they came out, it was around that time.
That was where I used to live in Castle Chateau de Remington, which, if you don't know, it got flooded and I had to move away. That kind of scuppered my existence for a little while.
I don't even know if people have heard any of that story, because it's not like you've been doing any of your Remington's Pillow Talk updates on your channel like the good old days. How many episodes of Pillow Talk have you got on there?
One.
That was a
One.
series that had serious legs, I think.
It did. You know, but there you go. I'm not so good with the technology, Andy. You are. And that's why it's not the Remington and Andy show.
And because
basically.
It's not on your channel, so you didn't get to choose the name.
No. So you can see my ogres. Yeah, well, I went on a mission, right, last year. I had to move flat. And I don't know if any of you guys have moved in the past couple of years, but you unearth all the creepy gremlins and grotlings from your man and women caves. And I just had a heap of odds and sods Warhammer stuff. And I went on a mission to finish all my unpainted armies and sell off bits and bobs that, let's face it, never going to use. And it's taken me a year to do it. Yeah, so my ogres are an army I've decided to keep. And I had a bunch of man-eaters. And then behind me, you can see the Feast of Bones.
We can
and
actually,
so,
isn't that just the nickname of your abode anyway?
Feast of Bones. No, it's not. But yeah, I've got something like a 3,000 point ogre army now. Most of that is because I've got about 9 man-eaters. It costs like 180 points in the game for just 3. Total rip-off. Clearly the best ogre miniatures out there. But yeah, you know, I'd do it for the fun of it. And there's the ogre paymaster, I think you can see. And maybe you can see the female ogre there with a...
Yeah, we can with that big... It looks kind of like a rolling pin, but it's got these metal bits around it as well.
Yeah, it is a rolling pin. It's a rolling pin. There's a bit of a puddle on the floor, which has had a spillage.
You never want spillages in battle, do you? Unless it's enemy blood.
No. Few conversions. You know what? I tell a lie. It's not actually finished. I've got to do... Well, I don't know whether to build the scrap launcher or build the iron blaster. So if you guys can help me decide, maybe write in the comments. I like fluff, but, you know, I like the comedy value of the scrap launcher, but, you know, the iron blaster does look good.
And you know what? Now that you've got 3,000 points of ogres, now would be a great time for us to converge on Warhammer World and have a great big game, except everything's closed and we can't travel.
That sucks, man. And do you know what? This ogre army has never lost. It defeated the legend Vince Venturella.
Which army was he using?
He was using Savage Orcs. My Savage Orcs, to be fair, but he was a great sportsman. I think I've probably defeated you several times.
I don't know if you've used the ogres several times, but at least once. What are they even called now, the ogres? What's their official faction title?
The Moor Tribes and the Beast Claw Raiders. Either way, the win to loss ratio is highly on the winning side with me ogres. So yeah, they're a winning army. And I think if you're a starter in this hobby, ogres are the best because you don't need many models. They're probably one of the cheapest armies to collect as well. So yeah, really great to fun, really great to convert.
Everyone thinks you should build the scrap launcher, by the way.
They do? Okay, because the only unit I've not quite finished is my Noblars. I've got 13. I've got 13 Noblars. I need 20, so...
Yeah. We had a few guesses for what the hell is that. We've had a guess of a Seraphon spine, orc teeth. No, none of them are correct. It's going to stay there until someone gets it right, unless it becomes unbearable that I just have to stare at this thing for the entire show, in which case I'll just take what it is and move on. So these Moor tribes that you've got out there, are they all on round bases now?
Yeah, that took bloody ages. It took me 4 years to convert all my squared models to round bases, but it's finally done. It's only my halfling army and the few Bretonians that I have that's still on squares.
Are they
So
going to
yeah,
stay chilling on the square bases though? Because
yeah.
obviously there was that announcement in our absence. The old world is coming back, and square bases are coming back at some point in some form.
Yeah, I'm keeping the halflings on squared. I've got a feeling that might be a future army of the old world. So there you go. Even if they're not, I still just I'm not doing it. I'm not moving them all because the thing is, I built really creative bases for all these. I don't really want to chop them up.
We do some wild speculation on what might happen with the return of the old world as well, because people are saying that maybe it's going to be Forge World only, and you won't be able to use any of your old models because it's all about making money. And they're just going to release a ton of whole new armies, and the old stuff's going to be like out of scale or obsolete or something. The same way kind of Age of Sigmar was, except this is set in the old world and not in a new, not exploded world. This is the pre-exploded world. So will people then forgive them for making all their models obsolete? Will people put their models back on square bases? All these questions have been rumbling around the community. What's your instinct? What do you think the old world new system, presumably, is going to look like?
I think they're going to rebuild it. I think if just from a business point of view, they want to release new models for it. They're going to want to release new rules, maybe a box set, the whole shebang. But then again, if it's Warhammer World, you might just get like minimal stuff, or it could be like a whole kind of Horus Heresy thing where it's this hugely successful, narrative story.
Yeah,
So
I think the Horus Heresy is pretty much Forge World only, isn't it? And I assume that does really well, because that seems to be all over the internet, really popular.
Oh yeah, that is the defining story of Warhammer 40k, I would propose.
So you think they want to turn the old world into the fantasies version of the Horus Heresy world? Like this is before the main game, which is of course Age of Sigmar.
I think they'd have to write some twisted narrative. What's the central character? I mean, like they've released some hints, haven't they? They've shown us some Kislev models.
Well, not models. They showed us some preliminary sketches, probably done on a napkin in the Warhammer world.
It's way off. We've got warrior women, the Queen's Guard or something like that, and they've got ice weapons, magical ice weapons. So I don't know. What else could you have there? Well, if you're going to have Kislev, you've got to have some marauding armies from the north. You could have Araby. You could have like the fringes. If you're going with the fringes, we've got New World colonies. You've got Nippon. You've got Cathay. It could be really interesting. But if we're going to stick with the old Warhammer game concept, that was mass fantasy battles, wasn't it? So you're going to need a lot of miniatures. So perhaps they will make it more of a skirmish game. I just don't know. But whichever way, it's a good 2 years off.
It's going to be exciting in the build-up, and I'm just hoping that I can still use my old classic Goblin Green-based dwarves. That's the most important thing.
Please, they're such an eyesore, Andy.
Everyone loved Goblin Green at the time. You can't look back now and say that you're the only one that found it repulsive.
I've still got a pot of Goblin Green somewhere.
Well, there you go. And I assume do you use it on many a base back in the day?
No, I never liked it. Look, if Goblin Green is.
How is that not dried up? It's in one of the terrible era of pots.
What, the hexagonal pot? Do you know what? I've not opened this for years. It might.
Let's find out if it's just a solid piece.
It's not looking good. Yes, it's solid, but there are still green bits coming off on the brush. So
you could work with that possibly. I bet it's not as old as this tentacle pink.
Wow, that looks like 1995.
Possibly even earlier than that. I've got this and my shining gold as well from that era.
Shining gold.
The shining gold where the lid didn't close properly for about 15 years and it's still good. You wouldn't know.
So there's so much to go through, Andy. We've talked about the old world, and there isn't really much to go on apart from the sort of the redrawn map that was revealed, which looked pretty awesome. That would be a cool thing to have in your room, wouldn't it? You know, just behind your orange visage there, to have this old world map behind you. Look pretty cool.
Yeah, do you think it's going to be an actual boxed game that comes out with new armies in it? Or do you think it's just going to be a rule set? Do you think it's just going to be a range of miniatures or what? Because I have trouble visualizing which way they're going to go with it, because I don't feel like this is a path they've been down before. Have they revisited any major game before, and after it's been gone for a while, and put it back out there? It's only really happened with the kind of the side games, your Blood Bowls and so on. They haven't done it with a huge system that requires vast amounts of miniatures yet, really, have they?
Yeah, and the sizings, are the sizings going to be the same, or is it going to be completely new? Are the design models going to kind of fit with Age of Sigmar as well, or are they going to be like The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, where the designs look kind of different, right?
Closest thing I can think of is maybe originally they had Epic, and then they had Epic 40,000, and now they've got the new Titanicus, which is a slightly different scale. But that might be the closest. But they were always kind of your specialist games, weren't they? They weren't the big hitters.
Yeah, that would suck if they did that.
If they make the models bigger, maybe, so your old Empire troops would look tiny next to the new ones.
Maybe they'll just release like heroes or some elite units that you put alongside your rank and file that you
Would
get
they
from.
want anyone using the old models though? After they've spent all these years convincing people to put them on round bases, and then after they did that, then convincing them that actually those models aren't good enough, you need to buy the new stuff instead.
Well, I don't know. I mean, they had 2 years previewing Sisters of Battle, didn't they? And showing it from design to production. And that hype train really worked. I mean, don't you think? Do you think the Sisters of Battle was successful?
It seems to have been.
Yeah.
I think people are going to be angry if they bring out new Warhammer Fantasy stuff and it's limited release.
I think everything's limited release now, Games Workshop, because there's so much variety now that they just can't stock everything. Having said that, talking of stocks, Remington has been buying
stocks
of Games Workshop. That's right. So Remington Industries is going to subvert Games Workshop from the inside. So Remington Industries is my brainchild, my company. Andy works for me, and so do a few people in the chat. That's right.
When it's open again, does that mean you can just wander into the HQ, just wave your way past the desk, and as they try and stop you, all the security jump you? No, it's okay, it's okay. I own stock.
No, it's all subterfuge. No one will know who I am. I'll go in disguise. But you know, Remington Industries came up with some fantastic concepts, and Games Workshop kept ripping it off. You know, things like What the Hell Is That, and many design concepts. So I thought, look, if you can't beat them, join them, and then change them from the inside. So there you go, slowly buying my way into the company. So guys, you may see some changes very soon. Be afraid.
I think people are afraid if any of your ideas are put into production.
No, that's not nice.
What were your revolutionary painting ideas? There was dusting. Can we expect to see that on the Games Workshop YouTube channel? A dusting tutorial?
Yeah, absolutely. A duster brush is coming into production.
And what was the trick with that? Was it to dust something that hadn't even been? Oh, what was it? You had another one. Don't even undercoat the miniatures first. Don't prime them. Just paint straight onto the plastic. Something like that, wasn't it?
Been doing it for years.
Is that why all your models have paint chips off the elbows?
I don't think so. Have a look at my work, Andy. It speaks for itself.
It speaks for itself until you go anywhere with it and just put them all in a plastic bag.
I'll have you know, I have 100% eBay rating of excellent, and I've been selling many of my miniatures to many people's satisfaction. That's a Remington guarantee.
The Remington finger sponge is one that people are remembering fondly.
That's right. Why get messy with a big sponge where you can have one attached to your finger just to dab off those runny washes that you do on your figures? The Remington finger sponge. So many that some of them just escape my mind. there was the auto painter machine. That was one of my favourite ones. That's like the Tesla of Warhammer.
With the technology we have now, we could actually produce some top-notch adverts for these things and play them
Yeah.
live on the show as well.
It'd be brilliant. Hey, what do you think of the new automated theme tune, everyone?
Saves you having to perform it live every week.
Only took me 4 years to make that. There you are.
Yeah, people were asking about the Andy and Rem Show album as well, which we could sell for good money, I'm pretty sure. Especially if
That'd
I
be
produce
brilliant.
50% of the tracks.
I think you should do the interludes with the like little dark stories and tales with
We
kind
could
of
have your songs on one side, and I could do some kind of audio drama on the other side. How's that?
definitely like what's it called?
Witch Coven?
Witch Coven, thank you very much. Witch Coven on side A. And then what was that silly tale that you wrote?
You
Can't
mean the
remember.
Forest of Rem?
Oh, the Forest of Rem on the other side. There you go. It's two concept albums
How
right
much
there.
would people pay for that? Let us know in the chat, and then we'll decide whether it's worth doing it. So I don't think anyone's going to get this. What the hell is that? Do you think it's too difficult?
I'm going to throw out a guess. Has anyone guessed since you've been rambling on?
It doesn't look like it.
I'm going to say they are some kind of bikes.
That is a pretty safe assumption.
I'm going to say it's not from a human model, humanoid model.
That is a safe assumption as well. I can
I'm
tell you
gonna
right now, they are kind of teeth. And they're in something that you wouldn't expect to have teeth.
It's a squig.
You would expect a squig to have teeth because it's an animal. So no.
It's a piece of terrain, isn't it? Because you told me before the show.
Yes, it is.
That's all I know, folks. That's all. I can't help you anymore.
Okay, we've told you now it's a piece of terrain. As soon as someone gets it, then we'll be very impressed.
Steve Evans says Croxigor weapon.
No, it's not.
Okay.
So in the meantime, while people are guessing, we've got a picture of your Zangors on the screen now.
Oh, have we?
Yeah, so do you want to talk us through these? Because these look a bit fancy with a very nice white background as well, which is very professional.
Well, I think it was at 2016, the Silver Tower was released. Warhammer Quest came back with a bang. Amazing miniatures, all in a box. And it took me 4 years to paint them. I think I had 2 games with it, and I thought, yeah, I didn't really like the game, but the models are wicked.
Have you sold this now?
I've sold it, yeah. I've sold it. Sold it in and out. That's how it goes. It's got to be extra special to stay in
I hope you got a
Chateau.
good price for it anyway.
I made 4 times what it cost to buy.
That's
but
not bad.
you know, if you're to measure it up hour by hour, it's not worth it. But you know, it's a hobby. It's just fun, and it made me a better painter. And do you know what? Someone got a great deal. Because if you look closely at one of them, the miniatures, I think it is the one that it's really hard to pronounce. That's basically a Minotaur.
Was that the Ogroid Thaumaturge?
Ogre Thaumaturge. Yeah, that was the figure that was debuting the legendary dusting technique. It was painted using dusting, not dry brushing.
Would you say the person who purchased this set got a better deal than the person that bought my unit of 10 Caradron Overlord Thunderers, all armed with the same weapon, which was rendered illegal 2 weeks after the sale for £145?
That is shocking, man. That's shocking. You're a pirate, man.
I didn't ask them to pay that much. You put the ridiculous price on expecting people to offer insanely low. And had that weapon layout remained legal, they might have thought it was worth it rather than buying 10 boxes of them to get those weapons.
Yeah, but why would you buy 10 boxes if you had that as a plan, didn't you? You knew.
I bought boxes so I could make my unit like that because the weapon was cool. And then I sold the spare weapons. And someone bought the unit off me, and then they were immediately rendered obsolete. So I haven't heard anything about any, like someone who was found as a skeleton in their home surrounded by Caradron Overlords, but
Andy,
possible.
you're a power gamer. Let's face it. Yeah, I'm in it for fun. I'm in it for the love of it. You're in it to win.
That's not really true. Because if you look at my armies, I do tend to buy one of everything, which isn't the way to do it, really.
To be fair, that's what I do as well.
If it looks cool, get one of it, and then figure out if it works in the army later. And after you've played a few games, you think, hey, this thing's doing all right, maybe I'll get another one of those. Maybe, but you start with a bit of everything. I don't think either of us have ever gone into an army looking down the army list, picking out all the best choices, and then, like, I'll order 3 of those, 5 of those, that's that. And then the army arrives, just paint it all up, stick it on the table. I think we paint too slow for that to be a viable strategy anyway, don't we?
Yeah, basically the Games Workshop rule of House is that the cooler the miniature, the worse it is in the game. That's how it goes.
Unfortunately, that is often the case. We've kind of got a winner for what the hell is that, by the way.
Oh wow.
I'm gonna say that Mickey has successfully guessed after saying the feculent narwhal. It's actually the feculent gnarl moor.
Oh,
Close
that's so
Yeah,
close,
it's
but
that
so
big
far.
Nurgle piece of terrain. It's like an evil plant with a big mouth in it running down it.
So what's the prize? Well done, Mickey. I'm going to send you a pot of Goblin Green. What a great gift there. And Andy's going to send you his Tentacle Pink.
No, I'm not.
He's such a
This is like gold
skinflint,
dust,
man.
this. Actually, I have just ordered another pink to replace it because I think this might be heading on the way out. This.
Andy's really tight.
It looks all right. With my old 25-year-old paints, I might be. Okay, so we've looked at your Zangors. And before there, we can actually see the thaumaturge right here with the legendary dusting technique. You can see actually the grain, the granularity of his shoulder. It's very prominent. So definitely some dusting was applied here. And I can see a bit of a blood effect on his hand, is that right?
Yeah, he's been in the Witch Coven and he's found a pool of blood and he's just thought it was water and washed his hands and then walked off.
That doesn't sound like something that a supremely intelligent magical monster would do.
I doubt he's intelligent. Talking of washing hands, Andy, have you seen the film Contagion?
Yes, we just watched it a couple of weeks ago.
It's like playing out in real life.
It's playing out in real life if the virus was like 20 times more deadly. It was
crazy.
quite eerie watching it, thinking, yeah, this is exactly how it played out. And then presumably no world leaders ever watched that film because they would have learned a couple of lessons.
I mean, it's like you grow up sometimes thinking, I wish the world would just stop for a bit. And I didn't have to go to work. I didn't have to go to school. You know what I mean? And it's actually happened for the first time ever. Like, not even in wartime does the world just stop, right?
Not for everybody.
No. So, yeah, we live in legendary times.
I can thankfully report that even way before the pandemic hit, my house was already fully stocked with hand sanitizer. So no worries there.
Andy, you never leave the house anyway. I think you'll be quite safe come doomsday.
I had to brave the supermarket today. It was very exciting.
Did anyone recognise you?
I don't generally get recognised around here. I'm not sure there are that many wargamers. Maybe next time we're in Nottingham, we'll be stopped on the streets every 10 yards again.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a struggle even getting into Warhammer World when you're such well-known celebrities.
It is. I think all the staff like to come down and say hi and stuff, don't they? It's quite annoying, really. We just want to go there and browse.
Yeah, trying to get selfies with us. Now, I'm going to bring up a picture on the screen now that is the giant that GW just unleashed upon the world.
Which is huge news, everyone.
Form. Yeah, the old giant you thought was pretty big. And then they were kind of... A lot of other companies have put out giants since then that blew the GW one out the water. Even the Mantic one, which is much bigger than GW's giant. And now GW have hit back with 3 alternative builds for this gigantic, hulking beast of a monstrosity. What were your initial thoughts when you saw these guys? Other than, I must buy all of them.
Love them, but don't know which one's my favourite, because there's something I like about each one.
Well, you could mix and match the pieces.
Yeah, so I'm wondering, is it like one kit and you can build all 3?
I think they all have the same leg pose. So I think it is just going to be one kit with a lot of spare parts in there.
You can just build one.
I
It's going to
think
be
so.
like the Mortarks, isn't it?
What's your prediction on the price? Because if you look at things like in 40k, you've got your Imperial Knights. In what have you got in Age of Sigmar that's comparable? Archaean, Star Drakes, things like that. Even they are probably less mass than these giants. So what do you think is going to be the price for one of these with the alternate parts?
I think it's going to be what Games Workshop retail.
Yeah.
£75.
I think that's way too low.
Wow,
I
really?
think it's going to be 95.
Well, how much
At
is an
least.
army? How much is an army? £400 to £500.
It depends what you're buying.
Well,
Because the
not chaos.
the Star Drake at GW retail prices was somewhere around 90.
Wow, was it really? What Archaon? How much was Archaon?
Archaean's not far off there, somewhere around like 80-ish, I think. And I think maybe the Imperial Knight might be more than 100. And these giants have got to be similar size to that.
You're going for like the £85 mark.
I think it's going to be like sailing close to 100 if it's not over it.
So £85 for our American friends is currently
Yeah, you have to check every day at the moment with the fluctuating world markets, don't you?
You do. It's currently $105, $104.52 to be precise. Canadian 148, and Australian dollars 166.
I think it's safe to say that in Australia it would cost about 400 of their dollars, though, since they seem to bump up the prices for everything down there.
Yeah.
Do you think
Well,
you're going to get one of them? Do you think you're going to get an army of giants?
well, you only need 3, don't you? That's
Well,
what
is
I've
that
heard.
going to be a legal army, though?
I mean, would it do well? You know, what if? Yeah, it could be a bit weird that you couldn't get more than 3 objectives, could you?
Is the whole army just going to be the big super giants, or are you going to have to take some of the smaller giants as well, as they're like their long lost cousins, or could you take like ogres, things like that, as pets, maybe?
Yeah, there really ought to be some minions to go with the giants, right? Or some kind of special rule like giant big pits traps they build, or
If you needed to get 3 of the small giants, let's say, to make it a legal army, then I think that would seriously put me off, because I'm not that keen on the standard GW giant. What do you think?
I've got
If you
one of
needed to buy some of those as well, would you just get one of the big ones as a painting project, maybe?
yeah, I'll just get one. I mean, the good news is that you can use it in any army. Although, why would a giant fight for a Nighthaunt army is beyond me. That's
You can
just
make
a
a
bit
haunted
weird.
giant.
I guess so. The one with the hood on his head. Yeah,
You
maybe
could do
that
the
could
kind
work.
of madness I've done with my Mantic giant, and just put all kinds of hideous parts all over it.
That is hideous, Andy.
It truly is.
Wow, what goes on in your brain, man?
Tentacles, apparently.
You need to go and speak to someone,
It's even got a little creature mooning while standing on a hand that's coming out of its thigh. So that's going to be fun to paint when I get around to that.
Bazooka J. Rambo says the next release will be Giant Wives, which would be pretty cool.
I don't know if giant wives needs to be a thing. They could do a female giant, couldn't they? What's the biggest clearly female models they've got? They've got the
The hag troll, troll hag.
Is that the biggest one? That's Forge World, isn't it?
Would you, Andy, if you were a giant, would you have a fling with a troll hag?
If you're a giant, I don't think you can be that picky, really, can you? You need to find someone that's at least comparable to you in size, or you'd just lose them all the time, wouldn't you?
Yes, how do giants procreate? Who knows?
Who wants to know? Probably not me.
Whenever you feel an earthquake, maybe that's what's happening.
Could be. Right. Let's get rid of the giant picture. We've looked at your thaumaturge. Let's move on to now. What are these? Are these witch elves?
Uh,
Or are
I
these more
can't.
of the Silver Tower? It looks
Yes,
like it's one witch elf there.
yes, that's more Silver Tower. Let me just get the pictures up for myself.
Yeah, because this new high-tech way, since Hangouts on Air have completely disappeared, then whatever I'm sharing isn't visible to Mr. Remington at the moment. And I can actually reveal that the reason you can see him at all is because in the streaming software, I'm broadcasting my entire screen and I'm just covering up all the other bits of it with my face and the pictures.
High tech, high tech. Yes, that is. Yeah, that's one of the characters. That's one of the characters. Yeah.
That's a very nice blanket that one of them's carrying around with it.
Yeah, she's like a mist weaver scythe, and her staff broke, so I put a witch elf whip on the end instead. That seemed to work quite well. Yeah, and she's got like a quilted coat. You know what? I'm beginning to regret selling these. They're actually really nicely painted.
Well, you say that, but would you ever use them?
Well, I had one game when I worked at my old school. I had a game with some of the students, and then I had a game with my girlfriend, and that's kind of it. I think you need more than 2 players for it to be interesting.
I think so.
But yeah, I didn't find it particularly tactical, but it was, it had like a nostalgic feel to it.
We did
Uh,
try out Silver Tower at Warhammer World briefly that one time, didn't we?
yeah,
And
yeah,
it seems all right, but I think it's one of those where I think you need a group of people really to play it. If you've got a group of 4 or 5 people that can get together regularly for these kind of games, you could put that in your circulation, couldn't you?
for sure. It's a beautiful painting project, though. So it was just nice to get that done, photographed. The thing is, the last 2-3 years has been absolutely mental. They've just been pumping out new games, new models, Underworlds, Beastgrave, Warcry, Blackstone Fortress. All the new armies, and you just can't keep up.
I'm afraid
Can't
you've
keep
just
up.
broken Mickey's heart there. Because she says Rem
Why?
has a girlfriend with a shocked face at the end of it.
Well, I've been waiting 4 years for Mickey to tell me where she lives. She won't. She won't even tell me. So you know what I mean, Mickey. If you wanted a date, you should have, at least reached out.
Lost your chance now, Mickey. So we've had Mickey also said, "Don't sell your toys!" Exclamation mark. But it's not that simple because I know that you don't have as much space right now as you did when you were at Chateau de Remington.
No.
Was that a major factor in your decision to get rid of stuff?
Major factor. I went from having 5 rooms to just having one, and rebuilding my empire. That's what I've had to do. It's been wonderful, man. It's just live simply. I've been managed to save a lot of money, pay off a bunch of stuff, and it's just been a purifying process, I have to say. And
If I lost
yes,
this attic, I would have to sell a lot. I think
it's
you've seen
it's
roughly how many armies I have, don't you? Seen them.
you've just got a lot of shit up there, Andy. You've got to clean it out, man.
Well, in my defense, I have actually just got rid of a load of stuff. I put together an Andy mystery fantasy box
Oh, tell us more.
with all kinds of fantasy-based miniatures and accessories that I was never going to get round to using. Some of them were partly painted, most of them were new on sprue or in a bag or whatever. And I thought, you know what, I'm never going to use them. Let's just put them in a box and see if anyone wants to buy them. I actually agreed to trade with someone for some other miniatures that I do want to use. So that's winging its way to someone right now. And I've also made up 2 Andy Mystery sci-fi boxes as well.
So you
See
didn't
if anyone
actually
wants to buy
get
those.
you didn't actually get rid of any miniatures because you just got a load back in
But
return.
those are ones that I actively want to paint in the near future, though, rather than ones that I know are going to collect dust. And those aren't the only things I got rid of as well. I got rid of a ton of stuff recently. It's been selling a lot on eBay. Things that have been sitting there, and all they are really is just a waste. Why hoard things that you're never going to use? If you painted them, fine, because you put work into them and maybe one day you'll get them out on the table. But if you've not even painted them, not even assembled them, there's other people out there in the world that could be enjoying them. So why hoard them all to yourself?
Exactly, man. I mean, at one point I had 12 armies, and I think one year I literally played 2 games
I
of
don't think
this
I'm
game.
far off 12 armies now. with
Wow.
various games
I
combined.
mean, it's just silly. And the thing is, I was like not really knowledgeable tactic-wise about any of those armies. So it's like, why not just have like one,
Why
two,
not
or
have
three?
one to know nothing about instead of 12?
Exactly. It takes up a lot less brain space. So yeah, I'm down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 armies now. Yeah, and I still think that's too much. So yeah, spread the love out there. Live simply. You'll feel great. And listen, don't sell your toys. I appreciate that, Nikki, but you know, I'm buying. I'm buying Games Workshop. You know, I think that's a good tactic, and you know, it gives back to me in dividends 4 times a year. So it's like reinvesting in the hobby passively.
We've got a good tip in the chats. We've got Mr. Tabletop Minions in there in the
Hello.
audience tonight. All the big hitters are coming out for this one, the grand comeback. And he
Wow.
says, get yourself a big basement and fill it with miniatures and hobby stuff. What could possibly go wrong?
Uh, it could get flooded with sewage and Nurgle's rot.
Yeah, I think I know maybe 3 or 4 different people who've all used a basement or some kind of cellar-based room as their hobby zone and lived to regret it. Of course, if something like your house burns down, it doesn't really make much difference which room it's all in. But if it's a flood, you really want to be high up. So I'm quite happy here in the attic, unless there's like some kind of UFO or something that's flying a bit low and takes the roof off the house. I'd be a bit concerned then. But I think I should be okay in here. Although I do need more furniture, actually. Because all my armies I've actually filled up. Do you remember I've got 2 big chests of drawers full of my armies? They're both completely full with armies now. And that's without my Kings of War, Abyssal Dwarves having anywhere to live. So they're just out on the gaming table permanently at the moment. I need more furniture.
Speaking of games, you know, what's it called? Games of War, Kings of War. You're like the UK champion right now, aren't
I
you?
wouldn't go that far. I'm ranked number 2 in the UK at the moment, while the season's on pause. So if they want to end the season there, that's fine with me.
So you're like the Steve Cram of Kings of War. You know, always came second to Sebastian Coe.
Well, I have got a lot of second place trophies in my cabinet.
That's not bad, man. Maybe
It's not bad.
who keeps getting first place? Is it the same person, or is it?
Well, actually, there is one particular player on the Kings of War leaderboard for this season who has won every single game that he's played and won every single tournament he's played in. I think it's like all 5 of them.
Wow. So if he wasn't at a tournament, then you'd be highly likely to win it.
You would think that, but it doesn't always work that way.
Aha.
There are other people, it has to be said though, because the season's been kind of cut short. There are 3 or 4 other people I can think of off the top of my head who regularly win tournaments who haven't really played many this year yet.
So what's your secret, Andy? Can you apply the things you've learnt into Age of Sigmar games?
Probably, but it is different though. Any game where Kings of War you typically have a time limit for a start, and I know back when the one Warhammer Fantasy tournament I did, there wasn't really any time limit at all, so people could play slowly if it favoured them. You can't really do that in Kings of War. You play slowly, it's just your time runs out and you can't do anything then, and your opponent can just do what they want. So that makes it a very different dynamic.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, Andy, you come to a battle always with a plan in mind, don't you? You have some specific little builds and synergies that you know you want to try out.
Well,
Is
anyone
that
who
the same?
watches all my hundreds of Kings of War battle reports will know that there's always a plan at the start of the game. But I'm not sure the same can be said for any of your gaming experiences.
Well, I'm what you call an intuitive tactician. Yes, I think on my
That's
feet.
one thing that we could call you.
So you never know what you're going to get, you know, with Remington.
If you don't even know, how's your opponent supposed to predict your moves?
That's what a great tactic, right? They can never outthink you.
The one thing, someone commenting on cheating actually in the chat, there was actually some really controversial moment in a recent Kings of War event. I think it was in America, and someone had some dice that were a bit questionable. So, because they won all their games on day 1 of a tournament, and all their opponents apparently complained about their dice. So on day 2, they used different dice and lost every game. And apparently it was something to do with, there was a symbol on the 1 and the 6. And there was some questions raised over whether the player claimed all the symbols were 6s. Which is obviously a sneaky maneuver, if that's how it happened. But that's why I don't like the Games Workshop official dice, because they always put the symbols on the 1s, and everybody else in the world puts the symbols on the 6. So what's up with that, GW? Except they're Forge World dice, which have the symbols on the 6.
I don't even know what you're talking about, Andy, but listen, Amy Snuggs has joined us in the chat. How about that? The legendary painter.
All the A-listers in the house tonight.
Extraordinaires. We've got all the legends in the house back together once again. It's the old team. It's the reunion. It's the champion team. It's the Premiership winning. This is like the Leicester City of Warhammer Age of Sigmar, right? The underdog show.
Well, Warhammer says the old dice in the microwave trick to weight them. Thanks for that tip, Remington. How long should you leave the average dice in a microwave, would you say?
I don't even know about that trick. I mean, I've seen you rolling a dice, Andy, and it's one of the most annoying things one could possibly bear witness to. I'll just do a brief demonstration for you.
Why is that?
Okay, look, if you ever come across someone, right, that's the board. Instead of like rolling the dice like Yahtzee, you know, you like roll it across the table and you let chance do its thing. Or you skillfully twist it up in the air and see where it lands. No, not Andy. Let's do an Andy roll, shall we? Everybody?
That's a perfectly legitimate roll.
You can see that he lines up the 6. Let me try. Can you see that? Okay. He lines up the 6. Okay, and then puts it there, and it's just like sticks up saving throw. There you go.
You're giving me a bit too much credit here. Actually, I've had a theory, because in my Kings of War games, I was finding that the dice I was rolling, after I'd had a really good roll, the next roll would be terrible. Or after I had a terrible roll, the next roll would be really good. So I was thinking the way that I picked them up, whichever number was facing up, because I was using big dice, and they don't have that much room to roll about in your hand, and you're rolling like 30 at a time. So I was thinking maybe there's something dodgy with this, so I've started using smaller dice, and I've noticed that's happened significantly less.
Yeah.
And if you're at a tournament, probably best not to throw your dice like you would do in a casino, like right across the other side of the table so they bounce off your opponent's army and come back again.
Do you know, when you're at a tournament, do people shout stuff when they throw the dice just to give it a bit of, vibe?
Not that often. I've heard people shout plenty of stuff when they get the infamous double 1.
That's fair enough.
Which in Kings of War, of course, means that unit that I've just annihilated lives for another turn instead of dying.
So look, let's move on, Andy. What do you think?
Some more of your pictures. We've got more Silver Tower stuff here. What are these?
Well, if you want, I don't mind. I mean, there's just so many there.
There's some rats here. Are they Silver Tower as well? Let's get past all this Silver Tower stuff.
Yeah, they're the first and last Skaven I'll ever paint. Filthy monsters.
Your goblin spiders there. Is this all Silver Tower? Oh no, it's not.
No, I bloody sent you millions of pictures, man.
We're on your Nighthaunt now. Do you want to tell us about this Nighthaunt army you've got here?
Yeah, I've got to say, it's pretty phenomenal looking. Amy, tell the boys and the girls at Siege Studios that Remington's back. Obviously, if you want to, maybe emulate some of these painting concepts, you're more than welcome to.
So you want them to copy you? I was thinking you were going to say, Remington's back, you might as well all just retire.
I wouldn't go that far. But yeah, the army's for sale on eBay.
And we haven't even had a game with it yet.
Yeah, well, I've been bloody waiting too long, I know. And I have to relearn a whole new army. Might as well just stick with what I know. Stick with the ogres.
Do you know the ogres though?
Well, I know you sort of move forward and charge, basically, don't you? What could possibly go wrong?
I've got a picture of your goblins here. I assume you haven't sold those.
No, they're not going. I'm not selling my gits. They are a fruity, loopy-looking army. Yeah, I like them. I want to add to them.
I think after the show, you should go on our Facebook group and post some big, nice pictures of all these armies.
Yeah, I did. You know, I actually put a post up in Warhammer Age of Sigmar fan network about the return of the Andy and Rem show, and I've got to tell you, it was like a storm in a teacup. I think we got 3 likes.
3 likes. So, but no one said, "Who are they?" Thankfully.
I think someone put a face slap emoji up.
I think what's more likely that happened, the reason there's only 3 likes is because people saw the announcement and they were so blown away that they've actually fallen back on their office chairs and they're just lying unconscious from the shock that we're back. I don't think it's a question of they're not interested. I think they're just so surprised that they're going to have to watch it later.
Yeah,
So,
we've got Sean Blake in the house here. He said the Andy and Rem show has gone from the #1 AOS show, and it's now the underdog AOS show.
well, if you want to turn yourself from #1 to an underdog, the trick is take 2.5 years off.
Yeah, and get dislikes on the YouTube videos. I think we've already got one already, so that's encouraging.
There's bound to be a few, especially because my channel's been doing almost nothing but Kings of War for over a year now. So there's going to be a couple of people that subscribed recently that think, wait a minute, you're talking about stuff on round bases, dislike on 3 different accounts.
That's why the viewership has dropped so dramatically, isn't it, Andy? Yeah, you bloody going off to Kings of War.
Chased off all our
What a
audience.
Traitor. You only went there because like about 20 people play it, and that way you could become crowned UK champion.
I went there because about 20 people within striking distance of me play it, you mean? Whereas for Age of Sigmar, it was much more difficult to arrange games.
This is true.
We're looking at your, what are they called? The Free People? Is that what the Empire are called now?
Yes, this is my Cities of Sigmar army,
Yeah,
and this is just one part of the army. There's another shelf with all the more big stuff. Basically, it's got the Celestial Luminarch. I've got the Altar of Sigmar. But yeah, this is a huge army now. This has got to be like 2,000, 2,500. You just can't fit it all in to 2,000 points. So I don't know what to do with this, man. I mean, a lot of these miniatures are like mail order only now. You can't even get them in shops. So it looks like, to me, I reckon they're just going to be slowly phased out. But, you know, to complement these, I've got a bunch of dwarves. I've got wood elves, formerly known as wood elves, wanderers now. Yeah, it did start off with just being a devoted of Sigmar army. So I've got a bunch of flagellants and witch hunters and warrior priests.
I remember we played a game with some of your devoted of Sigmar.
That was a wicked game.
You had a couple of priests in there. You had some flagellants.
That was wicked. We played Stu's Nurgle's Rot army. It was a really thrilling game. It went down to the wire as well, and I think a handgunner killed the Greater Demon of Nurgle.
I think so. We had an epic showdown between some big Gribbly and the Stardrake, didn't we?
Yeah, it was a wicked fun, man. Stu's a great sportsman. Congratulations, by the way, Stu is now a father. So congratulations, Stu.
And apparently he's also looking at getting a PC so he can actually play some of the PC games that we've been doing lately as well.
Oh, tell me more, Andy.
Well, not only have we been playing Vermintide, which people have obviously been watching in their droves because it's so exciting. People are hearing about the Witch Hunter's exploits in that. We've also got Vermintide 2 and Space Hulk Deathwing to play as well, and I believe that Mr. Stu is not far off being able to join us in those endeavours.
That's wicked, man. Wicked. You know, anyway, so Cities of Sigmar army, I don't know what to do with. It looks like a lot of fun to play. But yeah, just can't get out there and do that at the minute. So maybe that will go for sale one day. Who knows? If you want it, make me an offer I can't refuse.
We're looking at your priest now as well with his little baby Griffhound.
Oh, that's more Silver Tower stuff now.
Yep, I think we're just back to
let's move on.
Silver Tower now. Okay,
come on,
there
Andy.
we go. Back to the ogres, and let's stop looking at those now. I'm not going to take them off the screen because then you'll be able to see my entire desktop, and we wouldn't want that.
Well, you know, hopefully we're going to do more of these shows if the public want it, because we've got plenty more.
I think the public do want it. There's an overwhelming demand for more A&R content.
They demand it. Wow. Okay. Talking of demand, one thing that hasn't stopped is the Mortal Realms. That's still getting out to people, and it's become a new hobby of mine to try and find places that sell it. And after 3 months of searching, my local paper shop, 500 yards from me, actually stocks it, and no one buys it except me now. So that's kind of cool. Been able to top up the Nighthawk army, and collect a large pile of Stormcast that I will probably never use. Just like every other gamer in this world.
Now, I have just been looking at the audio levels, and I think we should have been alright for this episode, but if one person is slightly quieter than the other, then that's something we can remedy only if people actually tell us. We did an episode of Vermintide Plague recently, and afterwards I was looking at the video and thought, wait a minute, it's actually snipping out 50% of my words, because my microphone level had automatically lowered itself somehow, so it was falling below the threshold of background noise filter. So I had to delete the entire episode, but nobody told me during the broadcast. Wow, wow, wow.
Well, guys, for future shows, right? If you want us to feature your paint jobs, please post them on the Andy and Remington Facebook page. Okay, if you want expert critique from myself and dry passing commentary from Andy, feel free to put those up there. Share.
Stu says, I'm a little quieter than Rem. Let me try switching to the other microphone and see what happens. How about now?
Exactly the same.
It'll be the same to you because you're listening to it through another source. But to the audience, I may have got painfully loud now. Switch to the other microphone. So hopefully people were able to hear everything that was said. Now, people who may have been impressed with the opening theme song for this episode, keep in mind we've actually got about 5 or 6 different versions of it now.
That's right, and I'll keep making more versions as long as people want it. And they're all going to go on a Andy and Remington future release, maybe an EP. I actually got a little record label of my own. It's one of the many offshoots from Remington Industries. So I can get this released out to the masses on Spotify, iTunes, etc. If people really want it. I think it's pretty damn awesome myself. It just needs to feature a bit more of you in it, Andy. So we need to get you on the track as well. Studio. That's right. That's a whole video in itself, isn't it?
It should be.
You. I mean, in the entire 8 or 9 years I've known you, Andy, I've only known you to own one music CD album.
And I assume you're going to tell everyone what it is.
I am going to tell everyone what it is, but I wonder if they can guess. Who is the artist whose CD Andy owns? Andy is probably one of the only people in the UK, right, to own this guy's work.
Anyone out there can guess what it is, I'll be very impressed.
He is a movie star.
Allegedly.
He doesn't treat his wives very well, allegedly. He has a ponytail.
I don't think that's allegedly.
No.
I might actually have the CD behind me here. Let me see.
Wow, it's even has it close at hand.
Yep, I've got all my CDs piled up here, all one of them. Okay, I've got it in my hand and I'm going to show the people what it is in a minute.
What's the title of the album?
Well, I can tell you right now that the title of the album is Mojo Priest.
Mojo Priest. I'm just going to play a bit of it because I've got it lined up on Spotify.
And then I'll have to go back and mute this part of the video so this particular artist doesn't steal all my 7 pence of advertising revenue.
This song is called Love Doctor.
Enjoy it while it lasts, folks.
What do you think? It sounds like it's going to be blues. I'm going to forward it.
Okay, I think I'm going to show people what it is now. Okay, there we go. I'm going to bring it up to the camera.
The soundtrack to Andy's
Dun,
life.
dun, 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 dun.
Out of focus.
It is for you.
Ah.
Steven Seagal and Thunderbox.
Thunderbot, is that the name of his band?
That's the name of his band. Mojo Priest is the name of the album. And anytime I'm on a car journey with anyone, I always try and bring this along and see if they'll listen to it.
And I actually, indulged you, didn't I, Andy?
And your verdict was not as bad as you thought it'd be.
Stu Gibson. Andy played Steven Seagal's album on our way to Rem's house. He did. That is true. You're on the way to a rock star's house and you commit sacrilege and get him to play Steven Seagal's album, Mojo Priest.
He has got another album, but I don't have that one.
Just in case you're interested, Angie, the title of his other album is Songs from the Crystal Cave.
Oh, well, maybe I need to get that.
Yeah, that's an earlier album from 2004. Maybe I'll buy it for you. I'll find it in a charity shop somewhere.
I don't think you'll find that in a charity shop. It's like gold, that. If someone's got it, they're not going to be giving it away. Unless maybe they're deceased and then their relatives that don't realise what a gold mine they have take it to the charity shop.
Speaking of gold, issue number 3 of Mortal Realms magazine has one of the best gold colours I've ever used, and that's Retributor armour. I think that's a phenomenal base gold, personally speaking. Yeah. What do you think of this Mortal Realms thing? Have you been lured in by it?
I'm aware that it exists, but I haven't actually bought any of them.
I mean, if I was a bit cynical, which I'm not, but if I was a bit cynical, I would say, aren't they just getting rid of all these excess models that they didn't get rid of the first time around?
Yes. I don't think you have to be too cynical to see that that's clearly GW's MO.
It is. It is pretty awesome, though. It just reminds me of when I was a kid. I used to sort of, collect.
Well, if you think
magazines.
If you think that something isn't selling very well from Games Workshop and they made a lot of them, let's say they bring out a new unit of goblins that aren't doing very well, you can predict that in about 18 months there's going to be a game called like the Goblins Assassinarium, where you've got 5 goblins taking on an assassin or something. And it's going to be a new boxed game for a reasonably low price with a load of card bits, and all the models will be existing models, including those goblins that didn't sell very well. And that'll be their way of getting rid of them.
You know what, Andy? After I did my research, and believe it or not, I have got a financial business brain, and I did look into Games Workshop in quite a lot of depth. And ever since Kevin Roundtree, the CEO, came on board around, I think, 2014, the fortunes of Games Workshop have really kind of skyrocketed. So whatever he's done has been absolutely magnificent. And I think the most notable thing is that they've opened their doors, haven't they? They've opened Willy Wonka's chocolate factory.
Yeah, I would have preferred it if they just took about a group of maybe 5 A-listers on a tour of the factory first, like us, obviously, before they opened it up to all the riffraff. But you can't really argue, can you?
No, I guess not.
If you were going round the chocolate factory before it was opened, the GW's version of the chocolate factory, which area, which zone in there would you have had your trouble? Because something terrible happened to all the children in there, didn't it? Would you have fallen in the river of Agrak's Earthshade, something like that?
I don't know, man. I think you could get quickly bored of any one area. And it feels like at Games Workshop, each member of staff only knows their own little world, don't they? They don't really know what happens anywhere else. And it seems like quite deliberate that information and freedom is restricted. I kind of like that. It's a magical thing, isn't it? It's a magical world where you've got to level up to gain knowledge, just like a game of D&D or something. But yeah, as to China Chocolate Factory, what room would I like to go in the most?
And which one would you encounter some trouble in?
There's a bit to like about everyone. Like Mike TV's room could be pretty cool, changing size and going microscopic and then becoming really large.
Maybe you would have gone in there and tested out their new wildly experimental contrast paints, and then your whole body contrast would have been thrown off because they're so wild and untested.
What do you think of the contrast paints, Andy? Did you give them a go?
I own, let's see, I think I've got about 4 contrast paints.
What colours?
I haven't found that it's just the magic juice in a bottle that you just splash all over a primed model and suddenly it's finished. Maybe people can do it that way, if maybe they've got more practice with them, they learn how to use them. But so far I've found them to be very much like washes.
What about anyone in the chat here? How about you, Mickey?
Have you tried any of them?
No, I've not, because you mentioned the word prime, and that put me off.
I can show you something that's painted so far with contrast paints only.
I go direct, Andy. I just paint onto the plastic straight off, man.
Okay, so this thing was painted only using contrast paints up to this point.
What is that? It's horrible.
It's a horrible converted creature I've made for Kings of War using a giant's head and a pair of legs.
What goes on in your brain, Andy, man? You need to see someone,
So that's just wrong. That's contrast paints so far. Let me put a light on it as well so you can see a bit better. But yeah, I was thinking I'll try out the contrast paints on this, see how it looks, and see if I want to add anything else to it. And I'm thinking it needs more. It needs highlights on it as well.
You can almost conceive that a creature like that could actually live.
I've made a second one as well. He's got a twin.
What are they called?
They're not really anything. I've just made them.
I think, we're talking about the new Sons of Behemoth army, and we're talking about, shouldn't they have some gribblies? There you go, man.
Who needs arms when you're hanging out with giants?
Yeah, the giants will feed them. They're like the giant gribblies, aren't they? Them guys, just old man heads running around with a pair of legs.
Or maybe they're like giant baby giants that just swim around in the water and then they step out when they're old enough.
I think they definitely shout. I can see them shouting a lot.
I would shout in frustration if I was just a gigantic head on a pair of legs, definitely.
But they're kind of like not. They're kind of not as comedy as squigs. They're kind of serious, but
more disturbing than a squig.
Dark, man. That's dark.
Hopefully, that's the plan, at least.
What's going on in the chat? Hello, Chris Palumbo.
Few people bigging up contrast paints, as they say.
I really like the contrast paints. They aren't a miracle paint all, but they have great utility. Black Templar gives a nice black, very dark blue colour with only one coat. Chris, I'm going to take a wild stab and say, are you in America? Because you spelt colour with the American spelling. Mickey Genver, they are using up the old crap monsters. Rafael Maj, I use contrast apothecary white. It's great for shading white colours. Wow.
It's kind of a really pale grey almost. I think I've got that one right here. So
hold on a minute. 3 years ago, one of Remington Industries' ideas, $1 million ideas, was to have a white wash paint.
Was it?
I swear to God, I said, look, we should have a white wash paint. Get moving with that idea, Mickey. Get rolling with that idea, Andy. Can you do the numbers for me? And what? 2 years later, contrast paint reveals a white wash.
Is that exactly what you had in mind, though?
Well, yeah. What else do you think it was?
I have no idea with your $1 million ideas. It could have been anything. When you say a white wash, is that precisely what you were thinking? Something that slightly darkens the crevices of a white miniature? Is that what you had in mind?
Do you know what? I mean, you can all say that I'm talking out my arse, right? But look, the video evidence is on tape. It's on Andy's channel. You know,
Unless I
dated.
sneak back and make that particular episode private.
Why would you do that?
Just in case. Legal purposes. I may have been paid handsomely for handing over some of your Remington Industries $1 million ideas to the top GW insiders. Can't confirm or
It's not
deny.
right. It's not right. But, you know, I'm not one to rest on my laurels. There's just going to be more ideas that are going to have to be created.
You want to come up with an idea now, maybe? An idea now, and then we'll see how long it takes GW to copy it.
Well, hold on a minute. I can't just think of them just when you say.
You're supposed to be Remington, the master of the $1 million idea.
I don't listen.
You said the ideas were just flowing out of you.
Yeah, they just come when they want to come. You know what I mean? Look, this is our first show back. Let me get back on the horse here, Andy. You're asking me to race in the Olympic marathon just when I've just started training again.
I've got one for you. A dry brush. So here's your standard dry brush, 2 different sizes. What about this? A double-ended dry brush with a different size at each end. And it's a dry brush, so you don't have to worry about like resting it on its bristles because it's already messed up. Not like a fine detail brush. What do you think about that idea? What dollar tag would you put on that?
It needs a good name. I like it, Andy.
What would you call it then?
It's about time, isn't it? After 4 or 5 years, you've come up with one concept.
Who can come up with the best name for that brush concept?
Nice.
Yeah, we'll see how long it takes GW to do that. My eye on them.
So, talking of little products to go with your hobbying, GW have been putting out quite a few, haven't they? In particular of note, you've got the Citadel paint handle.
How are you finding that to use?
It's always sat on my desk, but I always forget to use it.
Have you only got one?
Yeah.
That would be my issue. I would need a lot because I like to paint things on. Let's see, I've either got these kind of things, like little paint mixing pots with blue tack on, or for bigger models, I use lids from spray paints.
Wow.
And pin the models to it.
How do you pin them? By
drilling into their feet and putting a pin in there. That's how I attach most of the models to their bases nowadays.
That sounds like a lot of work. It's quite fiddly, isn't
it? Not hugely fiddly.
Oh, okay, impressive. Have you seen the GW paint handle that's got the like Dr. Octopus things on it?
Is that the assembly handle?
Yeah.
To hold things in place. I've seen it, but I haven't tested it.
Has anyone in the chat ever used one of those? What do you think? Is it a thumbs up?
I'll tell you a product that gets a thumbs up from me. The Citadel paint holder.
Oh, wow.
You don't look impressed. It holds 3 paints at a time. So these extra tall washes that just spill everywhere.
Yeah.
Now they're extra stable. You really have to try to pry them out of there.
Let's give it the Remington test. Okay, what if you hold it upside down? What happens then?
If you hold it upside down, the paints will not fall out of it.
Oh my god, that's amazing. Have you drilled them onto the...
No, it's like a rubbery kind of material. So they just like in there. They're stuck.
So no drilling required?
Nope. And
that's phenomenal.
You'd have to use some considerable force to knock this over. Instead of tipping it over, you'd more likely just slide it all the way across your desk and onto the floor that way.
That's amazing. Why didn't I think of that?
Well, people could make things like this themselves, and I always think when I see these products, why would I buy that when I could just make it? And then I sit there, and a couple of years later, well, I still haven't made it. So why not just buy these little lifesavers, I would say. I'd describe it that way.
I tell you what, though, there's something about Games Workshop which just the very name will sell literally anything it produces.
What about the water pot?
Yes, take this for example.
Oh,
the water pot. I mean, I could just use a mug. right? Couldn't I? Or a cup or anything. Yeah, I bought this, and these sell secondhand on eBay still years later. It's absolutely incredible. That is a powerful thing, isn't it? It's a powerful thing, and
I'm not sure about that particular product. What advantages does that have over a mug?
well, it does have these indentations just there, which I'm not quite sure what they're for, to be honest, but they look pretty. Yeah, okay, look. Oh, that's wicked. I never even knew that before. Look, it holds the paint brush in place. Why haven't I ever tried that? So your brush doesn't even. I've had this for like 5 years.
And you've
Oh.
never used it for that
Oh
purpose?
wow! They're actually all different sizes. Those little holes there are different sizes, so they fit all different size brushes. So you can keep. Why am I doing this? It's like I'm advertising GW stuff here. Anyone you'd think you'd think they were paying us, wouldn't you?
You might, but we won't talk about that.
Right.
Chris uses the paint handles often. Raphael uses 4 or 5 handles at once. Yeah, because I'm usually painting at least 5 models at a time. So I wouldn't want to be switching it out into the handle and out of the handle again. So I think it would be a bit too much for me. Someone that's painting just one model to a nice display standard, I think that's your target audience for a paint handle. A luxury paint handle, anyway.
Well, listen, I think we're running it to the end of the show at the minute, Andy.
We certainly are, but there's a lot more to talk about in the future, because obviously we've missed a lot over the last few months. There's elves that are dressed up like cows.
Absolutely.
There's all kinds of other stuff that's been out there recently.
There's more monstrosities from the table and weird mind of Andy. There, trapped in his man cave. He would give Sigmund Freud a job for life, that's for sure.
I think he already had a job for life.
Obviously, I've got a whole bunch of other armies, in fact, that I want to show off, because flipping it, I've got to show them to somebody here in lockdown. You know what I mean?
So I think people will be demanding that you put up the high quality pictures of all your armies in our Facebook group immediately after this broadcast.
Okay.
I can't really show much off because I haven't painted any Age of Sigmar stuff for ages.
Yeah. I mean, talking of the Andy and Remington Facebook group, come back, put your pictures up in there. If Andy's feeling benevolent, he might actually agree to share them, because
Can I get back on it as well? We could turn it back into, we haven't discussed this officially, but we might turn it back into a weekly show until we run out of content while everyone's in lockdown, because I think that would provide people with the morale boost that they need.
They need it, Andy. They need it, and your channel needs it. People have been, having to settle for Kings of War. Your subscribership's gone down. Your view count's gone to like 50 per video.
Actually, with Kings of War 3rd Edition, my subscriber count did start to climb up again.
Oh, okay. Well, congratulations. But let me tell you that this is just one of many brand new shows, and this is just going to boost your channel up to where it should be. And I'm going to piggyback on the back of that.
Well, it's only going to be a successful piggyback if you, on your own channel, which I've had a link to on my channel for a long time, you need to put up something on there. Maybe even just Remington's Pillow Talk Episode 2. I think people would go crazy for that.
Would you go crazy for that? Tell me in the chat, please. I think I'd have to pre-record it. I mean, I know how to do that, but this live thing, I'm not sure. Just out of interest, do you know what that miniature is, Andy?
That looks like one of is it like the Bretonian Robin Hood style characters?
But what's his name?
What was his name? Is it like Giant something?
It's meant to be Little John, isn't it?
Yeah, but what was his name in the Bretonian army, though? Was it like Jean de Petit or something?
Nope.
What was it then?
I can't believe no one said in the chat.
They might just be seeing it now because there's a bit of a delay.
It's Hugo something, I think. Hugo Le Massive or something.
Hugo Le Massive.
I might have made that up, and I'm just painting his little sidekick there as well.
What's his name?
I don't know because I've now sealed his base to the base itself, so I can't read it. So there you go. Bit of Warhammer history for you there. Yeah, sorry to diss Kings of War. I'm only pulling your leg. I think I admire what you've achieved there, Andy. It's amazing.
I'll show everyone that's maybe not been following this channel lately, I'll show them what I've been working on as well. So, these hideous monstrosities, Abyssal Dwarf Grotesques for Kings of War. These are new models from Mantic.
What got you into playing Chaos Dwarves then?
The fact that they're evil, and they're dwarves, probably, would be the two main factors. There's another one.
What's their thing in the games? Do they like stand and shoot?
They don't, to some extent they are. They don't have that much shooting, at least when I use them. They have a lot of like big rock monsters, and they're really tough to wound. Slow moving, high toughness kind of vibe. Yeah, and this is the latest thing that I need to paint for them as well. Look at that. It's a lava rock rhino monster. So that is a huge chunk of resin there. And then today, because I've been waiting for some paints to arrive, I went back to an old project and worked on this a bit. This is my customized grot mega tank.
Oh, now we're talking. This is my kind of technology right here.
Yeah, so this is actually two smaller tanks stuck together crudely.
Yeah, if there's any 40k army I would get, it's gonna have to be those little grots.
Yeah, I made this a long time ago, but I'm only just starting to somewhat paint it because my other paints didn't turn up, so I couldn't work on my other stuff today. So I'm actually having fun with that now. That
needs some work. It looks like a 6-year-old painted that, but the concept is great, Andy.
Well, it is only base coats.
Guy Le Gros is the man's name.
Guy Le Gros.
Or is it Hugo Le Petit? No, they both sound good. Yeah. Oh man, I've had a really good time tonight. Thank you everybody for coming.
It has been a roller coaster of excitement from start to finish. And hopefully we'll see everyone again next week. And we'll... Come on. Well then, on that note, anything you want to say to the audience before we depart for the week?
Thanks for coming, guys. Remember, put your pics up on our Facebook so we've got something to talk about. But also, there's so much more happening now in the Age of Sigmar world, and we're happy to talk about it, happy to share it. Love you all. Thanks for coming.
And we're going to dive into all that new and not so new stuff, but new to us stuff next week. Now that we've got the technology worked out, the way to do this in the current technological climate, very high-tech methods were employed here to get this show to you. And so possibly same time next week?
Yeah, why not? Andy, why don't you roll out the theme tune?
Well, that is the plan. So, before we go, everybody don't forget to check out all the links in the description and follow me on Twitter, join our Facebook group, which I will add to the link as well. And there's also ways you can send me all your money down there if you want to as well, which is great. And on that note, here comes the intro/outro.
It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on your screens tonight. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. We're talking about Age of Sigmar and anything else that is cool. Talking about Warhammer fantasy, it's easy to learn.